What is going on, YouTube? I hope you're having a fantastic day. TimProVision here, and we are back breaking down another weapon. This time we are giving you the quick tips and a full breakdown of the Peacekeeper shotgun to make you hit those crispy high damage shots with the PK. The Peacekeeper is honestly a fairly high skill weapon to use, and it does rely on you hitting the big damage shots for it to be effective. But let's waste no time and just hop right into it. If you have any questions regarding the Peacekeeper or any other weapon, or if you just want to chill, come on over to Twitch where we do stream nearly daily, and I appreciate your support. Starting off with the damage breakdown, we got 11 damage per pellet, and there's 11 pellets in a star formation. This means it'll do 121 damage to the head, 99 to the body, and 77 to the leg if you're hitting all your shots. The fire rate is a lousy 45 rounds per minute, and this is nearly 3 times less than the EVA 8, which has 126 rounds per minute, just in case you need some sort of comparison. For the attachments, we have the shotgun bolt and an optic. The shotgun bolt will reduce that fire rate by 7.5, 13, and 16%, which is a faster chamber rate, which is the fire rate. And it is pretty weak considering you can get a 35% speed reduction on the purple bolt for the EVA 8. Again, the pellet pattern is relatively a star shape. It has 2 pellets going around a center pellet in the middle for 11 total pellets. By default, the Peacekeeper has a choke on it, which means if you do put the choke on, you are going to reduce the spread of the pellets, which does allow you to extend the range quite a bit if you do have the choke on. Kind of comes down to personal preference if you want it on or off, and we will get to this in a second. The reload is very slow. It's 2.5 seconds for a partial reload, 3.5 seconds for a full reload, and again, for comparison, an empty EVA 8 will take 3 seconds for a full reload. Now let's just start to get into a few tips. As always, the skins that you are putting on your weapons actually do matter. Thinner profile skins are better than some of the thicker ones, and this is evident on screen. You can actually see the Season 2-ish, I think it was, Battle Pass Peacekeeper on the right, and then on the left you have the neon kind of like outlaw one, which is much more thin. I do recommend you always use a thinner profile weapon so you can see more around you, and actually you will be able to see down sights a little bit better depending on the weapon. So just keep this in mind as you're picking your weapon skin. Now let's just move right into the tips for aiming. First of all, you want to minimize your misses. If you miss with the PK, it's a much bigger deal. You could even say 3 times bigger deal than the EVA 8 because it does shoot 3 times slower, which means in my opinion, you pretty much want to be doing 70 to 100 damage with every shot. If you're doing anything less than a 70, you should just be taking the EVA 8, just kind of how it is. And again, you can increase your damage a little bit by hitting headshots, but honestly, you're going to do 99 to the body, and if you hit all your pellets, you're going to do 121 to the head. It's really not that big of a deal to be hitting headshots. You know, it's only 20 damage, and if you're playing against an enemy with a gold or purple or blue helmet, you're actually only going to do 110 to the head. So that's only 11 damage different for them having a blue or better helmet, which is probably most of the cases, especially later on in games. So in my opinion, you should always be aiming for the upper chest area. This way, if you do hit a few shots, some of the pellets will go up into the head and the rest will go into the body, and you'll have that center mass. You'll be hitting the most of your shots. Let's now move on to the choke. Sometimes having the choke on is better to shoot, but I will say it really comes down to preference. Some pros don't like the choke just because it kind of messes them up a little bit mentally, where, you know, you look down sight and then your crosshairs start to shrink, and then you're going to whiff your shot because you're trying to get that kind of choke to activate before you're shooting. Some people like to have it on. I personally like to have it on. I don't really see any negatives by having it off, and it doesn't really bother me by having it on. The only real negative I can see by having it on, personally, is going to be the noise. It is fairly loud when you hear that choke charging up, so this is something just to keep in mind. For the most part, though, it really doesn't matter too much whether you're using the choke or not. I wouldn't really recommend you use the choke in close range fights. Like, you don't want to wait for that to activate. You really just want to aim and shoot them, which does bring us to the next point of, is it better to ADS the weapon or is it better to hip fire the weapon? Personally, I like hip firing the Peacekeeper. You don't really get too much from aiming down sights again. Even if you have the choke off, the pellet spread is actually the same, so you don't get any accuracy bonus unless the choke is on. And then again, you need to have the choke charged for a brief second before it even does activate. So aiming down sights doesn't really matter per se. I will sometimes kind of just aim down sight really quick and then shoot the enemy. This is kind of just how I play though. It's kind of like I like to aim at the head and then shoot, but it really does depend on the situation. If they are right next to me and I'm pretty much like barrel stuffing them with the Peacekeeper, I'm not going to aim down sights. I'm just going to shoot at them. For me, the only time I'm really actually actively using the choke is if I'm kind of in a held up position. I'm not moving too much. I want to save my primary ammo. I have a lot of extra shotgun ammo. I'll put that choke on and actually try to do like 30 to 50 damage, maybe a decent range across the map on someone that is maybe not moving or being a little more stationary. The other scenario I would say for the choke is going to be if someone is running away from me. If I have the choke on, I'll aim down sights to get that pellet spread reduced. This means I'll do more damage on them and shoot them in the back as they're running away if they are trying to disengage from me. This brings us to the overall question, should you use the PK over the EVA 8 or the Mastiff? Let's discuss the pros and the cons. The Peacekeeper is a much slower shooting gun than the other two, and it does do a little bit more damage. In my opinion, it really comes down to the player. I personally like the EVA 8 the most right now. Again, the EVA 8 has a 3 times faster fire rate, and this can actually be increased a little bit more because the purple bolt on the EVA 8 actually increases the fire rate by 35% instead of the 16 on the Peacekeeper. So this actually brings it almost to a 4 times faster fire rate. And for me, if I'm hitting consistent 40s to 60s with the EVA 8, this is going to be a little bit better than me hitting a single maybe 90 or 110 or something like that with a Peacekeeper. It's just way more consistent. The one scenario where you may want to use the Peacekeeper over the EVA 8, in my opinion, is if you're playing Gibraltar and you're aiming down sights. Gibraltar obviously has the gun shield, so you do want to aim down sights until the gun shield is broken. And the Peacekeeper can definitely benefit from this because you'll have the choke on by default because you are aiming down sights. So this is one thing to keep in mind. Another thing could be if you're not hitting, say, 160 to 180 damage, with your spray weapon, and you need to do a little bit more with your secondary in order to knock them. This is another scenario where if you're a little less accurate with those spray guns, but maybe you're a little bit more accurate with your shotguns, then this could be beneficial for you to use the PK because, again, you are going to be doing more damage with a single shot, and this will allow you to have better one-tap potential when you are swapping weapons. Now, let's just briefly talk about the Mastiff for a second. The Mastiff is almost like the in-between the Peacekeeper and the EVA 8. It's really weird right now having 3 shotguns. We haven't really had like this scenario before in the game. The Mastiff overall is going to be a little bit better at doing higher overall damage over time, and this is due to one reason, and this is the fact that you can reload the Mastiff a single bullet at a time, meaning you don't need to reload the entire magazine in order for it to start using. So if you're really spraying the Mastiff or you're spraying your shotgun at enemies at close and medium ranges because maybe you ran out of primary or something, you're going to be able to chamber 1 or 2 shots into the Mastiff and then fire them off. Whereas the Peacekeeper or the EVA 8, you're going to have to reload the whole mag. And finally, I'll just say one last thing. Fun is definitely a factor when using the shotguns. The Peacekeeper for me is absolutely the funnest shotgun to use. There's something so sick about having that lever action shotgun that hits like 120 damage headshot if you get a really clean shot on someone. It is absolutely a blast. But in the overall power rankings, I actually don't think the Peacekeeper is the best shotgun in the game unless you are very consistent hitting your good shots. So that is pretty much it for the Peacekeeper, guys. So if you do want a little bit of a training scenario for you to use the shotguns in the firing range, I'll personally say I don't really train the shotguns in the firing range. I don't really see a need to. But if you do want something to do, you can absolutely practice by bobbing in around the signs next to the dummy bots, and then maybe doing a quick ADS tap fire with the Peacekeeper at their upper chest area a few times. This is a great way maybe just to get you warmed up or just get the feel of the weapon. A great resource we have now is Arena though. So hop into Arena and try to buy the Peacekeeper for the first few rounds and don't use any other gun. I can definitely see this being a viable way to train a lot of the different weapons in Arena mode. And that is pretty much it for the Peacekeeper, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Do you like the Peacekeeper? Do you not like the Peacekeeper? What is your favorite shotgun? Personally, for me, it's the EVA 8 and then the PK and then the Mastiff. And then, honestly, I kind of like the Mozambique a lot too, but we didn't really even talk about that in this video. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any more questions, stop in the community Discord. I would love to chat with you about Apex Legends and all things Apex. And I will see you live in the Twitch streams. Peace out.